I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, we now know the name of the 44-year-old woman shot and killed in broad daylight. Officers say she was just out for a walk when she was hit by a stray bullet.
Breaks her heart. It feels like an assault on our neighborhood.
Surveillance video obtained by CBC shows people ducking for cover after hearing the gunshots. Plus,
it really highlighted to me the weak spots in our public infrastructure.
10 years after Ontario's most expensive natural disaster, we find out whether we're any better equipped to handle major weather events. And Beyonce touches down in Toronto, kicking off her Renaissance tour in North America. And it's not just the big show at Rogers Centre that's got the Bay Hive buzzing.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Thanks for joining us. We now know the name of the 44-year-old woman killed in the middle of the day in the middle of a busy Toronto neighborhood. Police say she was out walking when she was hit by a stray bullet. Greg Ross has the latest for us, including new surveillance footage showing people ducking for cover.
Several members of the Leslieville community left flowers today at the spot a woman was shot and killed while walking along Queen Street yesterday.
Just to pay my respects, you know. It's sad, very sad.
This is our neighborhood, and this is just, it breaks our heart. It feels like an assault on our neighborhood.
Today, police identified the victim of that shooting as 44-year-old Carolina Hubner-Makarat.
Somebody just started to yell, "Shooter."
Sarah Dees was one of the last people to see Hubner-Makarat alive.
We looked outside and we essentially saw a woman lying on the ground.
Dees says she ran to help the woman and comfort her as they waited for emergency crews to arrive.
At that point, nobody was really sure what had happened, like whether it was a real gun. Somebody thought it was a BB gun. Soon after, they started doing CPR on the woman. And yeah, it was just like so traumatic and sad.
According to police, Hubner-Makarat was not the intended target of the shooting. Police say there was a physical altercation between three males. Two of them pulled out guns and began firing at each other, eventually fleeing in opposite directions. Surveillance video from the area shows people ducking for cover after hearing the gunshots. Seconds later, a man is seen casually walking east on Queen before turning north on Boston Avenue. Another man was seen running from the scene along Carlaw Avenue.
I would like there to be more safety measures in various communities, especially Leslieville. But, you know, just clearly there's a lot happening all over the city.
Police are asking anyone with information about either of these suspects to come forward. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning to that other terrifying violent incident in Toronto that's made headlines this week, that stabbing on board a packed subway train. As Albert Delatala shows us tonight, police say a suspect is in custody.
Toronto police say they have arrested a 25-year-old man in connection to that stabbing on a subway train a few days ago. Here's the suspect. Of a picture of him. He's being identified as Moses Lewin, as I said, 25 years old and from Toronto. Lewin has been charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault with a weapon, and failing to comply with a release order. All this stems from a violent incident on Thursday that sent a man in his 30s to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Pardon me. He's since been upgraded to stable. We have a graphic video of the incident, and just a warning, it is disturbing. Police say two men got into an argument on the subway around noon hour. You can see the men appearing to kick and punch each other before one man pulled out a knife. With the man with a knife then chased the other man through the train. Police said the suspect stabbed the victim several times before fleeing when the train stopped at the next station. This incident has renewed worries among transit riders about transit safety on the TTC, as there have been a string of incidents, brazen incidents over the past year, and there's been a similar rise in incidents as well in other major cities across Canada on transit.
That's Albert reporting for us from the newsroom. Well, Toronto's first Black female city councillor has died. Beverly Salmon was considered a trailblazer by many. Known as a fierce advocate, she pushed for more inclusive policies and practices at City Hall. She was first elected councillor in 1985, representing North York. She retired from municipal politics. 12 years later, she received both the Order of Ontario and the Order of Canada. Beverly Salmon was 92. Today marks 1 year since that massive Rogers outage. You'll remember millions of Canadians were left without internet and cell service, while also disrupting government services and payment systems. Some people spent 5 days without service. At the time, Rogers' CEO offered apologies to its customers and said the outage was due to a network system failure. After a maintenance update, the company also credited its customers. You probably remember this one too. It was 10 years ago today that a record storm tore through Toronto. Rain slammed the city, knocking out power, flooding streets and basements. Talia Ricci takes a look back and finds out if we are any better prepared now for major weather events.
For many Torontonians, they can still vividly remember these images of flooded streets.
What the heck is that?
Oh my goodness.
Destroyed basements.
Water was up to this level.
And a GO train stranded in the water in the Don Valley. It's been 10 years since that historic storm.
I was actually here at G. Ross Lord Dam, and that afternoon we experienced about 126 millimeters of rain that fell in the span of about 90 minutes. That night we were in storage mode and we were trying to store as much stormwater as we could, trying to prevent downstream flooding.
Power outages affected at least 300,000 Toronto residents. And about 1,400 passengers were stranded for hours on a commuter train filled with water. Craig Mitchell says that event sparked major investments from all three levels of government.
We are trying to build the systems bigger and larger to sort of anticipate for potentially larger storm events in the future.
And it really highlighted to me the weak spots in our public infrastructure.
Jennifer Drake, one of Canada's leading experts in stormwater management, was teaching at University of Toronto at the time.
It was really fascinating to live and to see firsthand, because this is the type of events that we as an engineer teach about and learn how to design our infrastructure for. I remember a lot going down to the Humber River during the rainstorm and actually seeing how much it inundated. You had rocks that were the size of cars that were part of bank hardening that had been picked up and moved, hundreds of meters.
The city says today Toronto is much more resilient and it continues to invest in flood prevention measures. It says following the storm, City Council approved the expansion of several programs to ensure the city was more prepared for extreme weather. That includes the Basement Flooding Protection Program, increasing the budget for infrastructure related to flooding, and a multi-year development project on the Don River in the Central Waterfront, which the city says is the largest and most significant stormwater management program in the city's history. Something else that's changed since those floods? Insurance.
If it was the excess rainwater coming in through, say, a basement window, people didn't have coverage for that. There wasn't anything available. Within 2 years of the Toronto floods, virtually all of the standard insurance companies were offering some kind of overland water coverage.
Today, residents have also learned how to better protect their homes from water with measures like sump pumps and flood shields, as well as a hard lesson about not keeping any valuable possessions in the basement. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Sophia joins us now. That's one of those, where were you when kind of moments. Do you remember what you were doing that night?
I remember what our neighbors were saying. We're out in Burlington, and Burlington got hit really hard by those floods as well. I remember just watching all the pictures float on social media, to use the term. purposefully there. And it was 2 out of our major risk factors that we talk about for the flooding criteria in Southern Ontario that came at that event, Shannon: heavy precipitation and warm temperatures. And I really have to put this in context for everybody, because it was an unprecedented amount of rain. Now, we've had a really wet June, over 100 millimeters of rain so far this month, more than the usual June average. But that one event alone was more than we've seen so far this entire month, so 120 millimeters plus in some places that came down, as you heard there, in a matter of minutes, or about an hour and a half even at the peak there. A little bit of rain to talk about in the short range forecast as well, coming down if you're heading out to any of the big concerts in town this evening. It won't amount to too much, but bring the umbrella. Some light showers, they'll continue throughout the evening, feeling like 23 into the evening period. And then in the overnight, that rain will continue scattered. It's clearing for the morning, but there's still the chance of those isolated showers or a little bit of storm energy as well for a pop-up thunderstorm. Mostly a dry day for many of us, and it's a bit of a relief from the humidity for Sunday. I'll tell you in the long range about how the feels like 40s almost creeps back up.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Protests are happening at the Indian consulates in Toronto and Vancouver today after the killing of a prominent Sikh leader last month in British Columbia. Ithil Musa has more on why some are concerned about the potential for further violence.
This protest is one of many happening in cities around the world Saturday in memory of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The Sikh leader was shot to death last month outside a temple in Surrey, BC. Nijjar was a vocal supporter of Khalistan, an independent Sikh state in India, and organizers at this rally believe that played a role in his death.
We're here to make it clear to the Indian government, along with all its diplomats and representatives, that we understand that they had a hand in the brutal assassination of Bhai Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
There is no evidence India had a hand in Nijjar's death, and police in Canada say they have not found a link to the country in their investigation. Still, this caravan is traveling to the Consulate General of India in Toronto to protest his death.
He stood up as a loud voice, as a beacon of courage, when no one else was prepared to talk about Punjab's freedom.
Global Affairs Minister Melanie Joly expressed concern about the safety of India's top diplomats in Canada following their appearance on demonstration posters, referring to them as the faces of Nijjar's killers in Canada. In a tweet, she said in part, Canada remains in close contact with Indian officials in light of some of the promotional material circulating online regarding a protest planned for July 8th, which are unacceptable. CBC News reached out to the Indian High Commission in Ottawa for comment on the protests and the posters, but received no response. Sikhs for Justice, which organized Saturday's event and is behind a global referendum on Sikh separatism, claims the organization's actions are not about inciting violence.
India is not a person. India is a system. What we mean by kill India is that we are going to kill the Indian system that is responsible for the genocidal violence against the Sikh community.
India has long accused Canada of harboring Sikh extremists, but Ottawa says freedom of speech means groups can voice their political opinions as long as they don't use violence. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
A big celebration today, Toronto's Tibetan community coming together to mark the Dalai Lama's birthday, which was on Thursday. Many say this celebration is important for many reasons, including it allows them to share their knowledge, traditions, and history with younger generations.
This is something that the younger generation can learn from the elder population, and this occasion is one such opportunity.
His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama is one of the only person in this below the sky who has done so much to Tibetans.
Makes us feel very happy to be included in such a really happy and respectful community, and just being involved in this is it's a really great honor to be here, actually.
The event was put together by the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Centre. The celebrations are expected to continue well into the evening with a dance party. It's all happening as July is Tibetan Heritage Month. We are heading into a quick break now. We're back with you, though, in 3 minutes.
Are you joining me?
Smiles and dancing to celebrate the culmination of an 8-year round-the-world adventure. Now get this, the guy in the green shirt, well, he did it all using only his muscles. Patrick Swadden explains.
Side dance, side hustle. It's taken Marcus Pukkonen since 2015 to get to this moment.
I'm prepared to cry quite a bit today, I think.
In the blink of an eye, a 73,000-kilometer circumnavigation of the Earth completed. But what's different about Pukkonen's journey? He did it without the help of a single motor.
A big part of my mission is to raise support for environmental social justice organizations, and often they're going up against big gas and oil companies. And so I thought I would limit my support of them by not using motorized transportation.
And that's just what Pukkonen did, leaving Toronto 8 years ago and traveling through 32 different countries, with only the power of his muscles and a bit of wind and surf. Pukkonen says he didn't even think about cheating, even when Chinese authorities told him the only way in from Hong Kong was by bus or train.
I ended up having to figure another way to get into China, and so I sailed across to Macau, and I was able to cross the border with my bicycle there.
Not being able to use a motor meant he had to avoid certain countries where paddling, sailing, biking, and even walking weren't safe. But Pukkonen says he always found a way, chronicling every part of the journey for his YouTube audience.
I think people underestimate how challenging that was for me, because every time I set up a camera, every time you see me in the frame, that meant that I had to go set up the camera, bike back, do it again.
The other challenge? Getting around on a shoestring budget, using less than $20,000 a year. But Pukkonen says, no problem.
A big part of why I've been able to do it on such a low budget is because there's very welcoming people all around the world who open up their homes and offer me places to stay.
So what's next for this young man? Pukkonen says he'll write a book and produce a film about the experience, the proceeds going to environmental organizations. But for now, a simple message for those who followed the journey.
People have realized that the impossible is possible, and that as long as you take one step in the direction towards your dreams, then you can accomplish pretty great things.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Hey, some salsa steps for you. You're looking at Canada's biggest salsa party. Hundreds of thousands of people were expected to dance in the streets today at Salsa on St Clair. The annual festival is all about celebrating Latino music, food, art, and culture. And there's our Maribel Tarouk on stage presenting some of the performances. I had a chance to learn a few moves myself from two of the best with Soul to Soul Dance Company.
My name is Roland Sempri and I'm with S2S. I'll be performing this weekend. You can see us right there at St Clair in Arlington. Big orange canopy. It says Soul to Soul.
I'm Jocelyn, and again, I'm also part of Soul to Soul, and yes, we'll be rocking it all weekend at TD Salsa Street Festival, the biggest Latin dance festival in Toronto.
We're builders in the salsa community, and we like to help bring that community together. Between the performances that we have at our booth, we've got social dancing all day and all evening long, yes, and then performances that'll showcase our students and our instructors and our professionals.
Salsa does have different styles. There's cumbia, there's they say on two dancing, on one. We teach all of it.
And if you can walk, you can dance. And right away, that throws off any kind of tension or stress because people are like, oh, well, I can walk. So then you just start walking the steps. And then they realize, oh, it's just like walking back and forth. And now you start adding a rhythm, and then they find that they're dancing. And before you know it, all of that apprehension, that self-consciousness, it's gone.
So if anyone would like to join us beyond this festival, they can visit our website at SOUL2SOLE.ca. And we have 4 and growing locations across the GTA. And we've been doing this for many years. And we have a great community, and everyone has a lot of fun. And you can learn all the dances that your heart desires, all Latin.
They make it look easy, but I gotta say, in our live shot, I see a bit of rain happening out there.
I was gonna say, you gotta show me some of your moves. It's not gonna rain on anybody's dancing parade, though. It is some rain. It's gonna be light in nature mostly, but it's on and off, folks, right until tomorrow, even on and off tomorrow throughout the day. So it's raining on some of those sequins and cowboy hats as we speak. Not heavy, though, folks. It'll cool things down substantially. So scattered and isolated showers, maybe even a pop-up thunderstorm into Sunday, but the cloud cover and that little bit of rain is going to provide some much needed relief from all the humidity we've had with us this past week. So it's going to amount to about 10 millimeters when it's all said and done, locally more if you do have a thunderstorm come through your area, but the humidity will only make it feel like the high 20s tomorrow, which will feel quite nice after this last week that we had. Be more pleasant overnight sleeping between now and Monday as well when that humidity starts to creep back up again. So feels like 33 for Monday, and then Tuesday is the hot day of the week. Now this week is, yes, humid on and off just like last week, not like heat warnings like we had, but we still have this influx of Gulf moisture that plagued us for most of this last week. Takes a break and then another wave comes in Tuesday for that feels like 37 day once again, really right across the board. On and off throughout the week, but much less active compared to last week. UV will be high. We'll have lots of hours of sunshine for Monday and for Tuesday. And if you like all of this, Shannon, it's going to be the trend for the long range with temperatures in the high 20s and yes, that high humidity. It's the summer of humidity already.
Oh yes, and the summer of Beyonce. Start the car. I'll meet you at Rogers
Enjoy.
Center.
Okay, all right, I'm going. I gotta get some sequins on though.
Yes. Yes, we've been talking about it all show. Here we go, looking live at Rogers Center. She is arguably, and I will argue, the biggest pop star on the planet. Beyonce touching down in Toronto tonight, kicking off the North American leg of her Renaissance tour. Fans arriving hours early and dressed to impress.
I'm just ready to go in. It's hot out here, and I'm just ready to see things.
I've been here since 12 o'clock, and I came all the way from New Zealand.
I've been here since 11 a.m. I wanted to come at 6, but they wouldn't let us queue until 12, so I made it for 11, and we're doing pretty good.
That's not enough. You got to check this out. There's a new pop-up exhibit celebrating Beyonce. It's now open in Toronto. It's called Renaissance Flagship. It's a retail concept store by Holt Renfrew, and it's billed as the first of its kind in North America. You can get limited edition pieces up for grabs, ranging from $25 to $325. Fans tell us they waited in several lines for several hours, but it was well worth it. Lots of excitement for sure. This is just night one. She's putting on 2 shows back-to-back in Toronto. That's it for us. We hope you have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.